South Park just destroyed Trump after getting a $1.5 billion payday, and the White House meltdown over it's pathetic. Candace Owens is now getting sued for defamation by the president of France and his wife because she keeps insisting the first lady's a man. And we've got big Trump, Epstein, Maxwell updates that's setting up what happens next. We're talking about all that and even more on today's brand new Philip DeFranco show, You Daily Dive into the News. But first, an awesome announcement. After today's show, you are getting 2 extra videos this week. On Friday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, they'll be right here waiting for your beautiful face. You're just another step closer to getting filled in on every single day of the week, but that said, we have a lot to talk about today, starting with this. The creators of South Park just cashed a $1.5 billion check, and they used it to tell the world that Donald Trump has a teeny tiny pecker. That was at least one of the many different takeaways from last night's season premiere, which not only took aim at Trump, but also Paramount and really anyone who has capitulated to the president since the election. Which, if you didn't see, the episode starts with a declaration that woke is dead after the characters learn that NPR has been defunded and that Jesus is now in their school. You then have Trump naked in bed with Satan, where his tiny penis is on display, and that joke is then repeated throughout the episode in portraits where he's nude as well. Slurs have been also used throughout the episode as a parody of anti-woke culture under Trump, and there are even jabs about the Epstein files. Paramount also catches heat in depictions of 60 Minutes where the hosts are literally afraid to speak, so they kiss up to and praise Trump. There's also a plot mocking Trump's CBS lawsuit where in the show, Trump sues the town of South Park for criticizing him, and then Jesus comes to town to warn them about Trump's abuses of power, saying, I can't play the clip, so just imagine I'm Jesus, saying I didn't want to have to come back and be in the school, but I had to because it was part of a lawsuit in the agreement with Paramount. You guys saw what happened to CBS? Yeah, well, guess who owns CBS? Paramount. You really want to end up like Colbert? You guys gotta stop being stupid. If someone has the power of the presidency and also has the power to sue and take bribes, and he can do anything to anyone, right? And then it ends with the town of South Park settling Trump's lawsuit by agreeing to air pro-Trump PSAs, and then a PSA plays with a narrator calling Trump brave, but then it showed an AI version of him naked, struggling to walk through a desert, and he has a tiny penis, and also his tiny penis speaks to him, right? In that PSA and all of that, it seems to be a reference to the controversy within Paramount's ongoing merger with Skydance, which, we talked about earlier this week, because they'll need the Trump administration's approval for this, so many believe that they're going out of their way to get on his good side. And in fact, on that front, just yesterday you had Skydance telling the FCC that it would cut all DEI efforts at Paramount. And that is, many believe that they axed The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and agreed to a $16 million settlement with Trump to get this merger rolling. Also, I'll say with that, there's been some reporting saying that there were some side deals in the $16 million settlement that actually makes it worth more. With that, including things like Skydance setting aside millions of dollars to air PSA supporting conservative causes, hence the South Park mockery. And so, all in all, it just made for a pretty wild episode 1. One, because South Park airs on Comedy Central, which is owned by Paramount. Right? This is their daddy that they're making fun of. And 2, they did this just days after officially inking a 5-year, $1.5 billion streaming deal with Paramount Plus. And under the deal, Paramount will have the global streaming rights for the show after its previous streaming contract under HBO Max just ended, right? And so under the new Paramount deal, creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they've agreed to produce 10 episodes of South Park a year, so 50 total new episodes. So they now have 5 years, aka the rest of Trump's term, under a Paramount deal, which is then why you had Rolling Stone saying last night's episode probably, quote, has Paramount and Skydance Media banging their heads against a wall, right? And that, as others have just praised the show for having the guts to go knives out at a point in time when most others are just afraid to. With, for example, the likes of Dylan Byers of Puck News saying, hard to think of anything more defiant in media and entertainment recently than Trey Parker and Matt Stone going scorched earth on Paramount in a South Park season premiere on the heels of netting a $1.5 billion deal with the very same company. And others chiming in, you know what's fuck you money? Everything Matt and Trey just ordered to air tonight. South Park referring to Colbert getting canceled within a week of it happening is unbelievable. Greatest show of all time. And finally, Paramount bent the knee to Trump once. How's that working out for you now? You really think he won't come asking for more? Appeasing fascists doesn't keep you safe. It marks you as an easy target. And then as the world was on standby for a Trump South Park Truth Social meltdown, you had Rolling Stone already reporting that the White House is furious about the episode, with a spokesperson reportedly telling them the left's hypocrisy truly has no end. For years, they have come after South Park for what they labeled as offense content, but suddenly they're praising the show. Just like the creators of South Park, the left has no authentic or original content, which is why their popularity continues to hit record lows. This show hasn't been relevant for over 20 years and is hanging on by a thread with uninspired ideas and a desperate attempt for attention. And that, as you had an administration source reportedly telling Deadline that the president is seething over the childish attack by South Park. But yeah, ultimately, that is where we are for now, though I expect updates soon. And so in the meantime, I gotta ask you, what are your thoughts and reactions to what we're seeing play out here? And then next up in the news, holy shit, this is gonna get crazy. In a very rare move, the French president and his wife are suing far-right podcaster Candace Owens for defamation.
It is a patently, egregiously ungrounded, false, unsubstantiated theory. It's exactly that, a conspiracy theory.
When you've risen to that station, Everybody has a right to question you, no matter what they're questioning. Why would you sue them over it?
Really? The first couple of France can't leave their home in France without worrying that people believe the deranged nonsense from this American podcaster?
Based on this story and how they're reacting, I'm starting to think that maybe Bridget Macron actually is a man.
Whereas the alleged defamation here, it centers on the unfounded claim that French President Emmanuel Macron's wife, Brigitte Macron, is in fact transgender. And although this conspiracy theory predates her talking about it, Candace Owens has been the most prominent advocate for it over the past couple of years, with her even declaring last year that she is willing to stake her entire professional reputation on the claim that it is true. And since then, she's released an 8-part series on the topic titled Becoming Brigitte that accumulated millions and millions of views so far.
I believe Brigitte Macron was born a biological male, okay? And then transitioned into a female. We are told, by the way, that that's Brigitte in her mother's lap. It looks nothing like Brigitte. It could be plausible that all of these people have multiple identities. A family that is known and is on record as having practiced incest. Is there a chance that Brigitte Macron, some of you asked, is actually the father of Emmanuel Macron? That mom and dad, they're not actually his mom and dad. Why and how did Emmanuel Macron get so close to the Rothschilds? Look at her hands. That looks weird. And this is why you can just sort of go down this rabbit hole and it makes you wonder.
And as you could probably tell from those clips, her theories, they get way more, we'll call it adventurous, than the relatively narrow, though still insane idea that Brigitte is trans. Owens also believes that she's older than she claims, that she stole another person's identity, that she's committing incest, and that she's a pedophile. Though that last one, it stems from the fact that Brigitte first met Macron when she was 39 years old and he was her 15-year-old high school drama student. Though also there, the couple has maintained that their relationship always stayed inside the bounds of the law and that they only tied the knot after reconnecting later in life. But then also, beyond that, Owens also seemed to suggest that Brigitte had some kind of connection to Jeffrey Epstein and an elite conspiracy of other pedophiles, where they're similarly claiming that the Macrons are being blackmailed or controlled by the CIA, and as you could maybe guess from the Rothschild comment earlier, there are anti-Semitic undertones to all of this. And if some of this, it sounds familiar, but you're not super familiar with her, it's actually because we talked about some of this a little while back. Right, and that because she had recently claimed that Donald Trump personally called her and asked her that she stop spreading the rumor about Brigitte being trans.
And then continues his narrative and he tells me that Emmanuel Macron is requesting to his face that I stop speaking about his wife. And one of the things Trump said is like, he tells me, she's old and this is really, really impacting her. And then he said, I saw her, Candace, I saw her up close and she looks like a woman to me.
Now, here we are. You have the Macrons themselves suing her in a Delaware court for defamation and seeking unspecified damages. With that complaint alleging that she has waged a lie-filled campaign of global humiliation to promote her podcast and expand her what they called frenzied fan base. With it then going on to state that Owens has dissected their appearance, their marriage, their friends, their family, and their personal history, twisting it all into a grotesque narrative designed to inflame and degrade, saying the result is relentless bullying on a worldwide scale, and adding, it is invasive, dehumanizing, and deeply unjust. But then with all that, in her response video to this, you had Owens being as defiant as really anyone could be.
I have been sued by the first lady man of France. You are officially a very goofy man, Brigitte. But I gotta give it to you, you've definitely got balls. If you need any more evidence that Brigitte Macron is definitely a man, it is just what is happening right now. The idea that you would file this lawsuit is all of the proof that you need. It's a PR strategy. They don't care if they win. This is about running it through the press.
Now with this, some key things, the lawyer that the Macrons hired is Tom Clare, who's also the same guy who represented Dominion in its historic defamation suit against Fox News. And also, in their complaint, they cite evidence which they claim incontrovertibly proves that Brigitte is not trans, including family photos and birth announcements, with Clare telling CNN,
"We have attempted to engage with her for the last year, putting evidence in front of her, request after request after request, that she just simply do the right thing. And each time we've done that, she mocked the Macrons. She mocked our efforts to set the record straight. She refused to retract what she had said. She started a merch campaign. She's selling T-shirts mocking and celebrating her defamation of them. And enough is enough."
But notably, with all this, you even have some who are by no means fans of Owens skeptical that this lawsuit will succeed. Or with, for example, this professor of media ethics and law telling Reuters,
"Under U.S. law, public officials are required to prove actual malice, knowledge of falsity, reckless disregard for the truth." In his lengthy complaint, he has certainly alleged that on the part of this podcaster, but I think he's also probably not giving enough deference to the fact that courts in the United States grant broad discretion to individuals to comment on public officials.
Right, and connected to that, according to Owens, she offered to interview Brigitte before releasing the first episode of Becoming Brigitte, and she argues that that fact, it disproves the actual malice claim. Ultimately, it looks like we're gonna have to wait to see how this plays out in the courtroom, and in that regard, Owens seemed confident.
We are revolting against this. We're revolting against the perverts that run the world. And I want to be very clear here. I count you among them. I think you're sick. I think you're disgusting. And I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world.
With all that said and laid out, I'd really love to know your thoughts and reactions to what we're seeing here and also what you think is going to happen. And then there's more news you need to know in just a second. But first, have you ever read protein labels and you feel like you just opened a chemistry textbook written by a liar? Because yeah, that's why I personally made the switch to today's sponsor, Equip Foods. You see, Equip was founded by Dr. Anthony Gustin, who was sick of the BS in the supplement world and wanted a protein made from actual food, not factory runoff. You see, Prime Protein is made from grass-fed beef, no whey, casein, and no sketchy fillers, just clean, real food ingredients. And one scoop, it gives you 20 grams of protein without destroying your gut, bloating you like a balloon, or you feeling like you just drank drywall. And it tastes like dessert. I'm talking chocolate, salted caramel, peanut butter, iced coffee, not like a dirty gym sock like most proteins. And my personal go-to is now just the vanilla in my morning smoothie. And Equip, they don't play games. No fillers, no glyphosate, no sketchy additives, just quality, transparency, and testing for all the bad stuff that most brands don't want to talk about. Say, if you want a protein that actually respects your body and tastes like a cheat day, Equip is where it's at. Prime Protein has just been a game changer for me. So hey, scan the QR code or head to equipfoods.com/Phil and use code Phil for 20% off. Or hey, even better, combine this offer with a subscription and get 35% off your first subscription. And then next up in the news, we need to talk about these Trump, Epstein, Maxwell updates. Starting with the news that a lawyer for hundreds of victims now appears to have corroborated the existence of the birthday book, or the alleged book that Ghislaine Maxwell made for Epstein's birthday back in 2003 by compiling letters from dozens of friends, including Trump. Or with the Wall Street Journal reporting that Trump's letter contained a cryptic message about all the wonderful secrets the two pals share in a drawing of a naked woman with his signature mimicking pubic hair. Of course, Trump has denied writing the letter or drawing the sketch, calling it a fake thing and suing the Journal for libel. But now it seems like there may be a way to determine if Trump is telling the truth. Or because last night you had Bradley Edwards, an attorney who's represented more than 200 Epstein victims, telling MSNBC that he has numerous clients who know that the birthday book exists and adding,
I do know that they were involved in the assembly of the book, several of them. They were told by Ghislaine to assist in putting the book together. Others have seen the book post birthday and after it was assembled. So the existence of the book is it's an absolute fact. Now, who wrote letters? What's in the book? You're going to have to get the book to figure it out. But this isn't something that needs to be a mystery forever and drag the victims into all kinds of anxiety for nothing. We can get that answer pretty quickly.
With Edwards going on to say that the book is in the possession of the two executors of Epstein's estate, his former attorney and accountant.
If somebody simply called them on the phone and said, give us the book, they would probably give you the book. If they didn't just voluntarily turn over the book out of fear of reprisal, Congress could issue a subpoena to their attorneys at Patterson or at Troutman. Those are the two law firms. I know those attorneys. They would turn the book over immediately. Nobody would have to guess.
And right after Edwards dropped that bombshell, O'Donnell spoke to Representative Ro Khanna, who's been one of the lawmakers leading the charge in the House to get the Epstein files released. And Khanna, he said that this new revelation will be an absolute game changer here, noting that just hours before, a subcommittee of the House Oversight Panel voted to subpoena the Justice Department for the Epstein files. And very significantly, that motion was actually passed by a vote of 8-2, with 3 Republicans joining all Democrats. And while Khanna said, that it is a big step forward, he also argued that it will be very difficult to get the DOJ to cooperate with the subpoena, but that it isn't the case when it comes to a private estate.
What's not hard to do is to subpoena private attorneys in a private estate and to get compliance. So I'm actually going to invite Bradley Edwards to meet with the House Oversight Committee, and I think we can easily move forward on this subpoena of that birthday book, and which could really advance this case. This guidance is very helpful for our committee because we can't trust the Trump Justice Department. That is going to get slowed down. It's going to get bogged down. Even if we subpoena, they can try to defy the subpoena. I don't trust the DOJ to prosecute themselves for contempt of Congress. But what we can do through Congress is go after these Jeffrey Epstein estate And we've seen even Republicans are willing to vote with us on that. This may be the cleanest way forward.
And so obviously we're gonna have to keep our eyes open for that. But then also on the note of lawmakers trying to obtain important Epstein information from a cagey Justice Department, we're also seeing that Senator Adam Schiff called on Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel to testify before Congress. With Schiff noting that the Wall Street Journal report yesterday said that Bondi told Trump back in May that his name appeared in the Epstein files, which appears to mean that he lied last week when he said that Bondi hadn't told him that his name was in the files. And that is you had the outlet reporting that Patel has privately told other government officials that Trump's name appeared in the files according to sources. And so as a result, you had Schiff posting this video on X.
Now we learn in May, Pam Bondi informed Trump that his name is included in those files. Bondi knew, Patel knew, but in July, as recently as just a week or two ago, Trump denied being informed that his name was in those files, even though we have now learned Bondi told him. We need to bring Bondi and Patel into the Judiciary Committee to testify about this now.
You know, getting Bondi and Patel before the committee, that would be very notable because so far they've been very quiet about this. Because while the White House denied the latest report, calling it fake news, Bondi responded in a very vague statement that didn't appear to directly refute the outlet's findings, saying, as part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. They're repeating the refrain we've seen from the DOJ time and time again, saying, nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. Now, like I mentioned yesterday, the possibility of Trump being mentioned in the files, it does not necessarily mean that he's implicated in any significant way, legally speaking. But I mean, many argue that the fact that he was so closely associated with this horrible pedophile at all is significant by itself. But also notably, we've seen Republicans trying to downplay the potential mention of Trump, like with Senator Josh Hawley, for example, who told reporters,
everybody knows that he knew Epstein at some point, and they're both New York. I mean, there's a video of it. Now, he said this for years, so I don't think any of that's a surprise that he's mentioned the documents. I mean, of course, it's everybody who's ever met the guy is going to be mentioned, so I don't think that's a big deal.
Senator, do you find it strange?
But nor is it a reason to withhold the documents.
But still, you have a lot of people saying that even if Trump is mentioned in a non-incriminating way, lying about it to the American people, that's a pretty bad fucking look. Or with people saying it just really looks shady, that it hurts Trump because it makes it look like he has something to hide, which just creates even more space for speculation and conspiracies. But all of that, it brings us to the final Epstein update I want to hit on today, though I'm sure something massive is going to break just the second the show goes up. But it's now being widely reported that DOJ officials are set to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell today in Florida at a federal courthouse, with Todd Blanche, the second highest ranking official at the Justice Department, being spotted arriving at the location earlier this morning. Now, notably here, as of recording, it was unclear whether Blanche himself was planning to attend or conducted the alleged interview. And it's also unclear if Maxwell will even provide any new information, or perhaps most importantly, if any of that information she does give is credible, because many legal experts have said that she can't be trusted because she has made it abundantly clear that she really wants to get out of prison more than anything. And the prospect of a presidential pardon from Trump is getting thrown around in the general discourse, with many people also saying that the efforts to interview Maxwell are just a red herring by Trump and the GOP to distract from the fact that they are not releasing the files. Right, and to that point, we also saw the Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee issuing a subpoena for Maxwell yesterday, demanding that she give a testimony to the panel, with that set to take place on August 11th at the Florida Correctional Facility where she's in prison. And so just generally speaking, there's a lot we're gonna have to keep our eyes on as all of this plays out. And then next up in the news, President Trump, who's busy doing everything except releasing the Epstein files, he just signed the Preventing Woke AI in the Federal Government Executive Order. And we should talk about it because, according to this order, artificial intelligence will play a critical role in how Americans of all ages learn new skills, consume information, and navigate their daily lives. Americans will require reliable outputs from AI, but when ideological biases or social agendas are built into AI models, they can distort the quality and accuracy of the output. And so this order, it seems, one, like an extension of his kind of war on information, and two, an extension of his crusade against diversity, equity, and inclusivity programs throughout the US. With it claiming in the AI context, DEI includes the suppression or distortion of factual information about race or sex, manipulation of racial or sexual representation in model outputs, incorporation of concepts like critical race theory, transgenderism, unconscious bias, intersectionality, and systemic racism, and discrimination on the basis of race or sex. And such examples include, quote, one major AI model changing the race or sex of historical figures, including the Pope, the Founding Father, and Vikings. Right, and that seems like an obvious reference to an incident from early 2024 when Google's Gemini just went off the rails. Right, it was giving people racially diverse depictions of all kinds of things that just didn't happen or exist. That said, though, testing at the time apparently couldn't reproduce results like racially diverse depictions of the Founding Fathers. But regardless, the order, it makes clear that the federal government, it won't won't even consider procuring AIs that it views as woke over concerns that it'll distort the truth, which is interesting considering the president himself uses AI to do things like make deep fakes of President Obama getting arrested. Not to mention that after 2024, most AI models have openly moved away from meeting any kind of ideological benchmarks, other than occasionally making sure that their AIs don't turn into mecha Nazis. Which, call me crazy, but also hear me out. Maybe AI calling itself Mecha Hitler and saying that like Hitler had great ideas, that not being a thing is a good thing. However, like with all this, you do have people who support the move by pointing out that if you ignore the anti-woke stuff at the start, the order is relatively narrow, right? It just applies to AIs that the federal government uses. And as far as forcing the AIs to be ideologically neutral, there is seemingly some wiggle room. Right? Inherently, AIs cannot be neutral since they rely on human data to be trained, all of which is inherently biased. But if that is readily apparent to the end user, then things could be okay. Though really with this, I'll say, we'll know more within 120 days since that's the time that the Office of Management and Budget has to issue some kind of guidance to the federal agencies over how to implement all this. And really I'll say this is just the tip of the iceberg because while this order was narrow, the administration also released America's AI Action Plan, and that has much loftier goals. Right, that 24-page doc, it goes into how the administration will heavily expand the use of AI in the US and make America an AI powerhouse, which is something that Donald Trump has been pushing for since taking office. And the plan, it goes over 3 main pillars: accelerate AI innovation, build American AI infrastructure, and lead in international AI diplomacy and security. Just with reading the titles, it seems like these are solid and good goals, but the devil is always in the details. So for example, right, how the big beautiful deal, it almost died because Trump included a bunch of provisions that would stop states from issuing their own AI regulations. And it wasn't until widespread backlash that Republican lawmakers finally actually read the bill and went, oh yeah, we need to get rid of that. Well, this action plan, it wants to sidestep that whole issue and states AI is far too important to smother in bureaucracy at this early stage, whether at the state or federal level. The federal government should not allow AI-related federal funding to be directed towards states with burdensome AI regulations that waste these funds, but should also not interfere with a state's rights to pass prudent laws that are not unduly restrictive to innovation. With it then going on to detail how this could play out, such as by not allowing agencies to use their discretionary funds on AI research in states with regulations. And it also wants agencies like the FCC to try and dismantle AI regulations by challenging them in court by evaluating, quote, whether state AI regulations interfere with the agency's ability to carry out its obligations and authorities under the Communications Act of 1934. A big key thing is that for lawmakers in many states, these plans were the most concerning AI-related thing coming out of the Trump administration lately. And so, for example, you had the press office of California Governor Gavin Newsom tweeting out, President Trump's executive order on AI threatens to defund states like California with strong laws against AI-generated child porn. Some might say that's an interesting priority, particularly in light of his close ties to Jeffrey Epstein. But this also is on the other side, you had companies like Palantir, which is a massive spy agency essentially, supporting the move and tweeting, AI is the birthright of the country that harnessed the atom and put a man on the moon. With today's AI action plan, the Trump administration has written the source code for the next American century. Palantir is proud to support it. Now, to be clear here, this is just a plan, but it is also a plan that the administration does want to move on. So 1, we're going to have to keep an eye on this and see how far the administration actually goes. And 2, part of that is probably going to be us watching a lot of things play out in court. But that, my friend, you beautiful bastard, is where today's show is going to end. But hey, remember, this week, not only did you get a video Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, on Friday and Sunday, you will continue to be filled in. Though those videos, they're going to go up at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you got all your notifications turned on, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.